Great to have you, and I'm hoping that you can really bring home the pain, the necessity for quick reaction that small businesses are facing right now. What has happened to your orders? How have you had to shift what you're producing in the face of this crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a men's shirt maker. We're based in Richmond, Virginia, but we sell nationally in a number of different ways. First we have our stores. And we have 3 of our own stores. Unfortunately, those are closed and, will be for the foreseeable future. So obviously that's a challenge for us. Secondly, we have a wholesale business as well that we sell to national retailers and then also to specialty retailers throughout the country. Unfortunately, those retailers are suffering as well. And so they've stopped accepting orders. So I think that kind of leaves us with a lot of inventory. I will say the exception has been Stitch Fix, who's been a phenomenal partner through this, who continues to take our orders, which is very helpful. And then the last piece is we're an e-commerce business and mostly at heart, we're 70% e-commerce. And I will say because of that, we are lucky than most to get right out through this. But it has been slow. What I will say is over the last 5 days, I think there's been an uptick, which has been great to see and hugely helpful for our business. I think it probably comes from 2 places. One is maybe people are settling down and at home and sort of looking for maybe a little distraction or retail therapy. And hopefully e-commerce businesses can provide that. And second of all, we're seeing customers just coming in and supporting us. People who are buying $1,000 worth of gift cards, not necessarily because they need a nice shirt right now, which we make, but because they want to support our team and sort of make sure we're around and on the other end of this, which we're hugely helped by.
Tell me, do you think that purchasing gift cards for small businesses is broadly going to be helpful? And also, can you tell us what you've been doing with the workforce? Have you had to lay off? Have you had to furlough? How are you managing those sorts of decisions given the demand drop off you've seen?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like everybody in the country right now, our thoughts are what can we do on the cost side in the near term, and then what we can do to generate revenue. And as I mentioned, we are an e-commerce business. We have 50,000 customers throughout the country. And so we're seeing those people come back, although it's probably still 50% what it would have been a year ago this time. So that's helpful. Buying a gift card, whether, it's for a brand you love or a restaurant you're supporting or even your barbershop, I think that's hugely helpful to try to put revenue into people's hands when they need it most, which is this next 6 weeks. In terms of cost cutting, we're saying, what don't we need? We came out of a great time, and now we're in a time where we say, what is the core of our business? And so, we're saying, what are those small things, but it affects everybody. It's whether it's cleaning services or whether it's marketing platforms. Unfortunately, we're in a place where last week we did have to make some targeted layoffs, which is devastating to do, particularly, in this economy and where we are now. But our hope there's going to be some government assistance on the side of this, things with the CARE Act. We'll be able to kind of keep our core team, potentially hire back some of those people that we had to let go and really kind of, build around our core e-commerce business to get us through this.
Paul, I want to gauge your sense of what's happening within the transportation piece of this. I know for my house, for example, on the e-commerce side, delivery has been pretty delayed from a number of different vendors to my house. And then on the freight side, we're getting reports that shipping costs are jumping really dramatically right now. What are you seeing on both sides?
Yeah, both sides. I mean, first on the freight, it's been challenging probably since February, early February. Our production, about 80% takes place in Europe and in Turkey, and about 20% takes place in China. There are factories closed in Turkey. Our suppliers in Italy that are mostly in northern Italy are closed right now. We are still able to ship some out of those businesses, but it's very minimal and very difficult to get flights. Ironically, China, which was very difficult, where about 20% of our production takes place, a couple of months ago is back online. The factories are open. The factories are shipping and fulfilling. But the challenge to your point was freight cost. Even a month ago when we brought over product, I think we were 200% addition per shirt in terms of what we pay for freight price. And there just aren't the flights to meet that demand. Hopefully, maybe that will even out as things slow. But as long as we can still get that product out, that's hugely helpful. And then on shipping to customers, obviously that's our lifeline, like it is for a lot of e-commerce businesses. There's a massive amount of pressure on the system right now. But really, I have my hats off to all those people that are out there delivering packages to doors every day. We have a 3PL here in Richmond, which still continues to operate. We believe it will through the continuation of this. And that's hugely important. I mean, we sell beautiful shirts to people that can afford them. And we're blessed to have this business. But the reality is people need, those supplies, that are so critical for them, whether that's Advil, Tylenol, or dishwashing detergent. But in our case, we're still able to fulfill and hopefully, get a shirt to somebody's door and hopefully surprise them in a couple of weeks and make them think of something else besides the news.
Paul, you hear what you're saying about layoffs and those difficult decisions that you've had to make. So I want to ask about fiscal help from the government, because it seems that an effort started in the Senate that was going to be to offer these loans that would be forgiven if businesses didn't lay off anyone. What is it about the structure of that perhaps doesn't make it doable for you? Is it the uncertainty around how it's going to be implemented, just the cost to carry those employees for an undetermined amount of time? Is there anything, as Congress continues to work on stimulus measures, that you think that they could further do that would keep you from having to do further cuts?
Yeah, I think we've all been waiting to see what would happen. And I think obviously a massive stimulus package was passed. And I think we're excited about that. From our personal experience, we said, like all, I think, responsible business owners is, all right, we are in crisis mode. What can we do? We have to be proactive. We have to continue to forward momentum to get through this. So doing that was what are our options? And we actually applied for an SBA loan on the disaster relief side as soon as the governor declared that here in Richmond last week. So I think that is a menu of options for us. I think the second piece is obviously the CARES Act, which is coming out. Which I think has a lot of great things in there. It has a lot of things that, protecting payroll, which is so critical, and keeping these teams intact. And so I think the question now is, how do those work congruently together? And then how do we actually apply and receive that? And I think, the government moved quickly on the stimulus package, and now it's how do we execute it? And how do we make it very clear? I had a dentist reach out to me today saying, what have you done on SBL, with the SBA? Like, what do you know about the CARES Act? How can we communicate that as quickly as possible and as simply as possible, and then really make sure that things flow through in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, just to ensure people aren't going to have to make another sort of round of hard decisions?